Okay, I'm going to show you my still unfinished 2D tool I made for thinking particles 5 and explain some settings and elements in it. So first of all, we have to load it. Okay, here it is. And to make it work, we have to pick the bound node, which could be any kind of geometry. I have an arrow here, which is made from a cylinder. The second thing we have to pick is floor node. Okay, but it's not gonna work as long as the bound node doesn't move. Here you go. As soon as it makes a sudden move, the explosion will happen. Okay, here we can change the direction of explosion, from always up to by bound node. So our arrow could change the direction. So here in main branch section, we can change the explosion radius, amount of particles, and the main power of explosion. By the way, these red particles are called E-branches, acts only as guide for all elements of explosion, and they are not a part of explosion. Here we can kind of sculpt our explosion. The explosion shape consists of 3 parts, and in this section we can control their strength and slope. The effect zone of each part of explosion shape controls by separate gradient map. The second detonation would come in handy in water explosions. Here you can set the amount of frames after which the second explosion will happen, and you can modify its shape and settings separately. If you leave any of these settings to 0, it would use settings from first explosion. Okay, and here in start section, we have this bomb type, which can be an air bomb. As you see, it is an explosion, but in the air. It also can be a ground bomb. Anyway, if you untick this floor detect, then the explosion will happen where the bomb node is. But as soon as you tick back this floor detect, it will explode just in the ground. Of course, if you are not using air bomb type. In interactive mode, the TD tool can detect the position of the bomb node and will decide if it is an air bomb or ground bomb. Okay, once you are happy with the shape of your explosion, you can switch E-branch's particle type from ticks to dots to make them less visible and move on. The next section would be global particle settings. Let's turn it on. Here they are. And you won't need so many E-branches. We use them just to have a vision of our explosion shape, but as we're moving on, something about, say, 60 particles would be enough. So with main particles, you can see some difference from ground-bound and water-bound types. Okay, let's take a look at the mist section. As you see, when we turn it on, each particle from previous section creates some amount of new particles. I call it mist. Here you can change the amount of them per frame and the thickness of mass they would create by themselves. Okay, in resistance section you have some settings as well. And for example, I made these previews from two different settings with wind effect. As you can see on the top one, the wind influence on whole mass of particles in the same way. When on the other one from bottom, as higher the particles are, wind affect them with more power. Okay, let's move on to fluid behavior. I made it for water bombs to make particles act like in fluid solvers. Of course, it's a kind of fake and you can't fill with it a glass of water. But as you will see in this example scene I made, here particles burning from some area with some initial velocity, and then falling down under force of gravity on plane surface. As you can see, it looks quite simple. So let's load here my fake fluid solver, I call it fluid behavior, and take a look how it would change our situation. Okay, here we are. As you can see, near particles start to come together and make some drops. Here you can change the drop size, viscosity, the internal and external pressure, and make drops more heavy as they come together, which would make them fall faster as the smaller colonies of particles. So it's not 100% accurate and correct solver, but at least it made particles more liquid-like, and it works quite fast. Here I made the previews for my fluid behavior with some different settings. And here is an example for water bomb. Okay, here is the debris section. I turn off other kind of elements so we can take a look at debris by themselves. As you see, there are just some colonies of particles, which depend on your settings, would fall in smaller pieces or can't stay together as a solid mass. They burn on E-branch particles and attach to them, so you can control their amount with this debris percent, which is percent of E-branch's particles. And here is an example with debris on and off. Okay, next thing I have to explain. Let me turn off all those elements and return back our E-branches to ticks, so we can see them well. So the next thing is how to make several explosions in one scene with this tool. As you know, as soon as our bomb node made sudden move, there will be an explosion. So we can make our first move, keep moving our bomb node to its next position, create a keyframe after our move key to make it calm, and after that any other movement would make the next explosion. So we can make as much explosions as we want. There is another method to make several explosions automatically. We can burn chargers, for example with the help of node and position burn. Here I have animated point helper, which I used as a node for position burn. Here it burns 20 explosions per second in its trajectory. Let's make it 2 per second. And let's change bomb type to interactive. As you can see, as our points getting higher, our bomb type changes automatically from ground bomb to air bombs. Let's change bomb direction from by bomb node to always up, so the air bombs can explode to all directions. Okay, now let's bring back our global particles. Well, I have to add that in interactive mode, the tool can detect whether it is on the water surface or ground, and it can do it with the help of vertex color. So if we paint our floor node to red, which is our nominal ground color, the 3D tool will switch the bomb type to ground bomb, and with the floor plane painted to blue, the bomb type will be water bomb. So the red color would mean ground bomb and the blue would mean the water bomb. And as you see here, it changed its bomb type as soon as comes from red to blue color. Alright, the last thing I'm gonna show you is the per percent random section. Let me bring back our E branches. So to make several explosions looks different, we can use this section. For example, here 60% of bombs would have a radius of 10, when other ones have the radius of 160. Okay, let's make it 10%. Okay, here you are. And here, for example, 10% of explosions have the power of 500, and others would have 4500. And again, as soon as you change any of these percents to 0, they would use the main not random value. As I said, it's not finished yet, and I need to add here some geometric debris and some particles that would use as film effects emitters, as well as make some shading and color sections to make particles and whole explosion looks more realistic. Okay, thanks for watching.